are one of the main headlines today in January 2018. That's what's going on right now. Yahoo News is fine. I constantly read it, but I think it's a very much propaganda press, but I like it due to that. For example, on Yahoo you'll see a lot of articles about military, about shaming, for example, enemies of the West like Europe and America. So you'll see articles where, for example, North Korea's leader Kim Jong-un is being shown as a fool, and so on and so forth. So there's a lot of propaganda, like I would say fake news, misinformation when it comes to politics. I personally believe that media out here, it's, well, for example here, as I mentioned, Kim Jong-un, should Trump give North Korea a bloody nose, as if, and they're talking about America like bombing something in North Korea and expecting that North Korea does mostly military. They're like never ended the war against South Korea. Everybody has to serve there more than a decade in military. Wouldn't do anything. They would probably ship so many missiles into US and just blow them right there that United States would think they were fools. But overall, everything is just fine, really. The economy is fine. For people living in the West, that is Europeans or Americans, it's just fine. Middle East was in a turmoil. There was this Arab Spring where dictators have fallen, then rebellion started. Previously there were US invasions of Iraq and Afghanistan. The Soviets attacked Afghanistan. Currently today Iran, ironically, is suffering from protests. Surprisingly, Iran previously banned protests, and obviously they banned it for a good reason, because in Iran there are so many people. If they would just start protesting, then there would be millions and millions in the streets, like spreading dissent and pillaging everything, stealing everything, you know, making world stop around them. But they decided not to renew the ban. They kind of have decided to allow protests, and now in Iran, I'm not sure if today, but at least in January 2018 there were protests against the government. So Middle East is kind of fine, but it was through a lot. And there were even this new country out there called Islamic State. I'm not sure how it's called really in their own language, but in US media and Europe's media they call it Islamic State. I think that's how they named it themselves. So this new kind of country out there, Islamic State, was creating massive troubles, like fighting all over the place in Iraq and Syria, and only now, after like a few years, it has been almost destroyed or so. However, I wouldn't be surprised if that Islamic State was just another creation of the Western powers, just simply to create a country out there that would create problems, turmoil, death, destruction, and so forth and so forth. So, however, I have no idea what's happening there. And in the rest of the world, besides Philippines, everything is fine. Like in Philippines, surprisingly enough, as if in some kind of a movie out there, tens of thousands are marching into jails themselves because they don't want to be killed, and tens of thousands are dying, and the only reason for that was drug trade. As if in Philippines everybody's so rich, they're so rich that there are drug dealers everywhere. They're so rich that they buy drugs so often that Philippines are in turmoil due to fighting drug cartels, and they're even encouraging people to fight the drug dealers. And it's so bad that it's crazy. So I think that there's a lot of lies. I think that after like maybe 10 years we'll realize that there was some kind of a revolution going on in Philippines, and they killed like 100,000 people there so that they could kind of squash the rebellion, and that's it. Because I personally do not believe that a country would be exterminating tens of thousands drug dealers just like that. Obviously, they were probably in serious troubles, and that's it. You can take a look at that. So far, so good. We are making money. Oh yeah, one thing I didn't mention is that there's a war going on in Donbass and Luhansk regions of Ukraine. And pretty much the Russians invaded Ukraine for no apparent reason. They have annexed Crimea, full Crimea, and created Novorossiya, a country in southeast Ukraine, and it's still unrecognized country, and it's unclear if it's going to stay. However, in 2018 so far, that region is stable. Now, for somebody who doesn't know about it, there are two stories about it. So the first story is that the people living in Crimea, for no apparent reason, have decided to rebel and join the Russian Federation, which is their, let's say this is the official story right there. So this is a story to tell or write in the books, right? So the Crimean people rebelled and they have simply joined the Russian Federation through a referendum. The other story is that the Russians invaded Crimea for no apparent reason. They did that and they have annexed it. Now the same goes with the Novorossiya, the new country that has arisen in eastern Ukraine. They have for no apparent reason rebelled and taken up arms. They have received support from Russian Federation, and with all the tanks, airplanes, guns, ammunition, they have managed to carve themselves a new country. And the other story is that the Russian Federation simply attacked Ukrainians and did not annex eastern Ukraine for themselves. They just created a small country which may as well end up one day independent and free, just like any other small country in Europe. And that's it. Furthermore, another thing is that there are a lot of things about Catalonia in Spain, similarly to eastern Ukraine. For no apparent reason, Catalonia region of Spain, so that's northwest region in Spain, has rebelled, and they elected their own government. Some of those government leaders, or maybe even all, have been arrested and brought to court in Spain. And Catalonia has elected a new government, and it's unclear how this new government will live. It's a very, very weird situation. At this time, it looks like there were not a lot of bloodshed going on. However, without the army, I'm not sure if Catalonia will be able to have its own country. Another thing that happened in Europe over the last few years is Brexit. Right there. United Kingdom, or England and Scotland will be moving out of European Union. There's Northern Ireland too. However, I kind of tend to think that Northern Ireland is England, because they're so English. I understand Scottish, like Scottish always had their own country, or At least they were kind of consistently puppets of England. However, they speak a little differently. They have a different history. They had different leaders. However, Northern Ireland is just English who fought the Irish, stayed there, and they don't have anything really there that unique to them, and they now are kind of considered to be nearly a mother country. So there were even talks about Northern Ireland like separating from England. However, obviously without the military support they shouldn't be able to do that. Without having like 50,000 soldiers there, they would never defend themselves against the British, or let's say in particular English, who own the territory and to whom everything there belongs. As you can see, for me this trade so far is proving to be very, very profitable. It's currently blobbing up once again. You know, it probably wouldn't be a bad idea if maybe one day I'll buy, but not when I'm trading with paper money. That is not real money. This is not real money. If you had any questions or doubts, this is just a paper trading account. That's how they call it, and as you can see, that's how it's written here. Paper trading. Now, what else should I trade? As you can see, trading Nasdaq Composite is just too risky due to all these jumps that are going on here. So look at that. So the market is clearly going down and then it opens up high up. This isn't good for me personally. Maybe for somebody that's rush, maybe that's how they want to feel, maybe they can predict things like that, but not me. Not me. Euro USD. Euro USD is fine for 1 minute trading. It's not so good for investing, as you already know. It's not moving towards one direction for many years. It is quite volatile due to the fact that it's money. It can't just move up like Bitcoin to tens of thousands. Now trading Apple. Probably wouldn't be such a bad idea. But once again, similar to Nasdaq Composite is opening up.